Hey everybody, welcome. This is Scrooge McDuck here, talking about spiritual geography, and we're going to call in the light. I invite you to close your eyelids and find the most loving place you can inside yourself. Father, Mother, God. We ask for the presence of the whole Spirit, the most loving Spirit, the heartfelt Spirit, to fill us around, protect, and guide us. We ask for this in love and understanding, keeping clear our individual destinies on this planet. We're so grateful for the presence of the whole Spirit to fill us around, protect, and guide us. We ask anything of a negative nature that may be released, or will be released, or can be released, that's possible, permitted, and clear, be taken by the traveler up into the air, and dispersed for the highest good. And for anything that's taken, we ask that it be replaced with loving, caring, and sharing of equal or greater value. This is really my attempt to share my loving. Part of that is to share some things that I know that have been useful to me. And one of those things is the thing that John Roger repeated more than any other metaphysical topic. I don't know about any topic, but metaphysical topic for sure. And that would be spiritual geography, what we call PACME. I want to start with a little different starting place. And that is, one of the problems we have in the 21st century is that we all want more loving, and we want to clear our blocks and obstacles to loving, but because all of this is unconscious, and the methods of accessing our unconscious are so new, only a generation old, most people don't have any methods to access what's both invisible and unconscious. Now, the way we did this in the 1900s was with the iceberg model. Here in this image, we have the tip of the iceberg visible above the water. That's the 10% of us visible above the water. That's the conscious waking self, the what I like to call island man, the most isolated part of our waking psyche, the top 1/3 of the three selves, top frequency, highest frequency, fastest frequency. And then from the waterline down a ways, we have the subconscious, where things are less visible, less clear, but still somewhat visible. And that's analogous to the inner child. And then deep below, furthest below, where it's darkest and dimmest, and on the underside of the iceberg, underwater, where you can't see it all, is analogous to our unconscious. So this model was quite useful, but it's somewhat gone out of fashion in the 21st century because it's just not that practical. And the key to making it practical is muscle testing, self-testing of any kind. Once you start testing, and start testing from the neck up, from the waterline up, and from the waterline down, the inner child, and from way under, where there's lots of very interesting material, then you start to see that's not very precise. I believe that John Roger talked about spiritual geography so common as one of the first things that he talked about, especially with new people, was to kind of fill that hole where some understanding should go of how our waking psyche is organized and how creation is organized, because the two are kind of the same. So with that said, I want to tell you that this is simple and that you have a geography of creation and soul and above right here in your hands. I'm here to say that there are pictures of spiritual geography right here in your two hands. Yeah? And these two hands together very conveniently represent creation and soul and above. Creation and soul and above. Yeah? Does it matter if it's like this? No. Creation and soul and above. Doesn't matter how you do it. Okay? So let's just look at creation. This would be this. Yeah? So in our hands, in creation, we have this little piggy went to market, this little piggy had roast beef, this little piggy went wee, 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 wee. This little finger right here is the physical level. So in creation, the weakest finger represents physical creation. And you, if you're skeptical or materialist, you say, that can't be right. And so you can turn the video off, or you can listen and see why this might make sense, of course. Okay? Because this is where a lot of our confusion is. We tend to think it's like this. Physical is the strongest. Soul is the weakest. Yeah? But it's not. In creation, it works like this. So let's see how that could be. Yeah? Physical is at effect of all these higher levels. So in our psyche, our waking psyche, which is 95% represented by all these things, this is the weakest part. Yeah? We know this because we can go to sleep at night and wake up in the morning and nothing has changed, even though we've set the physical body down. So you take the physical body out at sleep, these all stay the same pretty much when you wake up in the morning and reconnect with the body. The next one is the imaginal level, what the theosophist called the astral level, which really means starry, but imaginal is really much more simpler, because we call this the emotional level, we call this the mental level. So this is the imaginal, emotional, and mental levels. Now you'll notice that the emotional finger is one of the two strongest fingers. These two fingers are the strongest on any hand. Yeah? One of those fingers is the emotional level. And that's because in our beautiful hand, the causal realm, the emotional realm, the realm of emotional cause and effect, and the realm of emotional consequences is the strongest realm in creation now. It's the realm with the most muscles of these 5 levels, frequency levels, in creation. Okay? Mental level, conveniently, is the pointer finger. So I shake my finger at you and I tell you how good you are or how bad you are, etc., etc., etc. Goods and bads, betters and worses. Using my mind, thinking, judging, judging, judging. You'll remember that this is the mental realm finger. And then what's this? The other strongest finger is our unconscious. Okay? This is the etheric level. This is what people know the least about. The 1900s, people in the 1900s knew a lot about the mind and the emotions. They didn't know much about the unconscious. Carl Jung and Rudolf Steiner began this topic in the Western intellectual tradition. And Steiner talked about etheric formative forces, and that is a big part of this. The key here is our etheric body, to switch metaphors from a hand, our etheric body is the container for all our other bodies, PACM. Our etheric body, represented by our thumb, is the container for the other 4 fingers, however you want to picture that. I think it makes more sense like this. This is the one we know least about. That's why there's the most written about it at healingtoolbox.org, because it's the most mysterious. And to get a loving quality going here is really a wonderful thing. That summarizes how this hand represents creation. So what's this hand? This hand then can represent soul and above. Now, why are they doing this? Well, where they meet here, there'd actually be like a sheet of paper. I'm going to get a sheet of paper here. Here's my sheet of paper. So they're actually kind of like this. And this sheet of paper here represents the cosmic mirror. Okay? It's not a sheet of paper. I don't know that it's a dome or a plane or what it is. I don't know. I haven't seen it directly. But the people like John Roger and Michael Hayes who have been out of their body and seen what's present and come back to tell people about it, all report this cosmic mirror phenomena. And it's quite relevant when we talk about avatars, because there are people that come back from that level of frequency. What's above here in Soul and Above? That's not well known. we don't have a lot of information about it. What does this represent in soul and above? I don't know. Are there levels above soul? Something like that, yeah. There are initiatory levels above soul, according to John Roger. Do we know much about them? No. Are they that relevant here, down in creation? No. No, they're not. Most of us are working off unresolved disturbances here in the physical, imaginal, emotional, mental, and unconscious. And only those people who are interested in returning to the heart of God, not talking about it, but doing it, clearing their unresolved blocks and obstacles so they can swim home, are going to have a practical use for information about stuff up here. Now, there is a way to picture this that is really easy, and I want to share it with you. Raise your hand if you know about salmon, the fish salmon, right? So the salmon, the little salmon swim downstream, down the rivers, to the ocean. If you go with the flow and swim downstream, that's what most people are doing. That's the metaphor for what most people are doing. Going home to the heart of God is one salmon, one at a time, saying, I don't want to go with the rest of the salmon. I want to go back to the heart of God. And so they turn around and they start swimming upstream. Now, which do you think is harder, swimming downstream with the current or upstream against the current? Yes, it takes muscles to swim upstream against the current. How do we develop those muscles? We develop those muscles by addressing and resolving as best we can unresolved disturbances in our physical health, in our ambition and imagination, in our emotions, in our thinking and judging and evaluating, and in the scripts and fairy tales we live our lives by. Okay? So that's something about creation and soul and above. First, simplest image of spiritual geography. And feel free to share it if you're so moved. Another way to play with this hand things is, remember being in kindergarten Sunday school, where they talked about the kingdom of the stones, the kingdom of the plants, the kingdom of the mammals, and then the human kingdom, and then the angelic kingdom. Is that another sequence? Can our hands represent those 5 kingdoms? Yes. One hand can represent all 5 kingdoms. Conditioned reality, physical, imaginal, emotional, mental, mythological. These are all conditioned. These comprise our habit body. We have physical habits about how we tie our shoelaces, how we eat our food, how we talk. We have imaginal habits, how we daydream, and what we're ambitious for and about. We have emotional habits about getting angry or feeling like a victim. We have mental habits, we call those beliefs, and we have scripts people live by, fairy tales people live by. These are all conditioned levels, yes? Learned conditioned behaviors. Habits are learned conditioned behaviors. Taken all together, all these habits together make our habit body. And this is a very convenient way to talk about our psyche. 95% of our waking adult psyche is our learned conditioned behaviors being played back over and over to ourselves and other people around us. Yeah? And then playing them back to us. What's the other 5%? Other 5% is conscious, waking, deliberate choice. Conscious, waking, decision making. Most of our day is spent playing back the learned conditioned behaviors, the habits. To go back to the salmon analogy, this is swimming downstream with the other salmon. When we start bringing in choice and saying, I will stop smoking, I will start tithing to my church, I will do an inner form of self-connection every day, Now we're using our intention and our choice. We're modifying these habits so they're more workable according to the values we have that are truly human, that come from soul and above. Loving, caring, sharing, health, wealth, happiness, abundance, riches, prosperity. And two more that I like to add. This one comes from John Roger. Touching to others with all of our goodness. And this one came through me. If you like it, feel free to use it. Keeping clear all of our mutually healthy boundaries. Boundaries are really important for people. At least two more topics to talk about. One is, you don't have to take my word for this. 3 books are really worth looking at if this topic is interesting to you. One is When Are You Coming Home by John Roger, has his version of A Journey Through the Realms. Another is Paul Twitchell's Tiger's Fang. Definitely get the 2nd edition if you can. That has his Journey Through the Realms. Journey Through the Realms. And the 3rd is the Light Book, which has a chapter by Michael Hayes with his version of the Journey Through the Realms. And then you might ask, are there other spiritual geographies? Yes, there are. There were a lot of spiritual geographies in the earlier part of the 1900s. So Theosophy started in the late 1800s, and there was a lot of talk about spiritual geography, and people came up with all sorts of variations. When you line all these up, they're actually pretty easy to line up because they all start with the physical as the lowest frequency, as an obvious frequency. But then how high they go really differs. And the big issue is that a lot of the alternative spiritual geographies only go physical, imaginal, emotional, and they think that's the top. The groups that talk about the mental realm, the unconscious, and soul and above are almost exclusively light and sound groups. This may have started with Guru Nanak, the founder of the Sikh order. In the 1800s, this wisdom was strongest in Rouhani satsang, but this wisdom is not real strong today in the West because they kind of want you to do their practices the way they do them in India, and in the West, our culture is quite different. So the Western light and sound groups are more popular in the West. And really, every culture should have their own version of light and sound. Why not? So if you're stuck in any of these levels, and you think a health intuitive healing coach could be a benefit to you, give me a call, and we'll see either how we can get you unstuck with your blocks and obstacles, or what the biggest blessing is that you can assimilate today. It won't come through me. It'll come through your own highest guidance. And my ability, as best I'm able, to connect you with the highest God and the greatest loving. You can find me at healingtoolbox.org, and I'll see you in the next video.